Kiss Me Kate, the 1953 Kiss Me Kate, featuring the music of Cole Porter, no less. And it just makes me want to watch that movie right now. Hi, you're listening to me, Carly Simon. And today I'll have selections from some all-time great Broadway shows, plus some of my own music, of course, and some of the finest film scores ever composed. So sit back and imagine you're inside a great Broadway theater. The lights have dimmed and the curtain is rising. It's 1942 and we're on an island in the South Pacific. Simply beautiful. Juanita Hall and Bali High from the original Broadway cast recording of South Pacific. It's sung in the show, you may recall, by Bloody Mary to Lieutenant Joseph Cable. And Bali High is the name of a fictional island with two volcanoes where Cable meets Bloody Mary's daughter Liat. I'm so in love with that song because of that strange interlude. You go up an octave and then down a half a step. Bali High. And it just is kind of mysterious and spiritual, and there's just something in that interval that just gets me every time. You know what? Interestingly, the South Pacific is prone to monsoons. Not so great. But it leads me to my next choice, and that is Monsoon Wedding. I saw the film Monsoon Wedding in 2004, and I fell in love with the whole movie and with the score by Michael Dana. If you haven't seen the movie, I urge you to, because it's quite unique and powerful. Going back to Michael Dana, after I heard it, I gave him a call, and I told him how much I loved it, and would he work with me at some point, and he said that he would really love to. And I haven't given him a call since, but I will maybe this week. From the soundtrack of Monsoon Wedding, and it's my own personal love theme. I play that every time I either want to conjure up love or I'm feeling love so strongly that I want to hear it and feel it more. You know, despite a large portion of the original film being ruined by an airport X-ray machine, that picture went on to win the Lion d'Or at the Venice Film Festival in 2001. Hi, I'm Carly Simon here on Radio 2. You know, the first time I ever heard that in the movie, I was so excited to go, and we all made plans and dressed up, and it was a hot night, and we went to a screening room, which was on Fifth Avenue. It was up on the 22nd floor of whatever company's screening room it was, and we all sat down, and there's this wonderful scene where Roger Moore's parachute opens, saving him from the disaster that would befall him if he fell on the terrible cliffs. And the song starts, and it goes, "Nobody does it better, makes me feel sad for the rest. Nobody does it half as good as you." And the screen went dark. And we thought, oh my goodness, what's happened? We were way up in the building. And we trundled or hobbled, as it were, down the stairs. All of us, there were about 7 of us, in the dark, without a flashlight, with a couple of matches being lit, down to the street. And that was the famous blackout of 1977. And we went home to my hot apartment, and Marvin Hamlish played the piano all night. And that was my dog that just barked, and she's going to be an intimate part of this show from beginning to end, because she's one of the living creatures here on Martha's Vineyard, where we're doing this on Easter Sunday.
I dreamed last night I got on the boat to heaven.
That was from Guys and Dolls, the original Broadway show in 1950, and it remained a popular choice of fans for musical theater, having been revived 3 times on the Great White Way. And I hear it's enjoying a huge success in the UK too. As I say, that was from the original Broadway show of Guys and I'm Carly Simon with my favorite show tunes and movie music. And my next choice comes from a musical about a composer and a lyricist. It was written by Stephen Sondheim. I wanted to include a song by him on my 1981 album Torch. And I was introduced to him by some friends of mine and spoke to him on the phone, and he said that he'd love to play his new musical, Merrily, for me, and would I like to come to his apartment in Turtle Bay in New York. So I said yes. It was a Sunday in midwinter, and I went over, and it was just Stephen there. And he let me in, and we sat at the piano, and he played the whole score for me, which is interesting because it starts at the end and it goes to the beginning. And while he was doing it, I had one of my famous anxiety attacks. And in order to make it not be so obvious, I did something that I've never done before, which is blood on my white shirt with my hand. And he was incredibly kind. And I said, I've got an appointment, so I've got to go. But I ended up recording the song on that album, and he came to the recording session. And there was an 80-piece orchestra, which was conducted by Marty Paich. And he was there, and I recorded it on my knees because I didn't want to see him in the recording studio. And when I came out, he was in tears, and it was so rewarding for me. And it's one of the songs that I'm most proud of in my own repertoire. Not a day goes by. That was from Merrily We Roll Along. That was Not a Day Goes By. And on my album, Torch, I also included songs by Hoagy Carmichael, Rodgers and Hart, and Duke Ellington. 25 years later, I decided I wanted to make another album of other people's songs that have meant a lot to me over the years. It's called Into White, and is really a selection of soothing songs for the young and the young at heart. It's like lullabies for adults. It features material by Cat Stevens, Lennon and McCartney, and this next song by Harold Arlen and Yip Harburg. I bow to that song, and to interpret anything that Judy Garland ever sang just shows how crazy I am. The Wizard of Oz was released by MGM in 1939, a year that for many is one of the great in film history. It's no surprise. Other movies made that year include Gone with the Wind, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and Goodbye, Mr. Chips. And the following year wasn't all that bad either. This next piece of music was, accompanied these words. I'll let you guess. Last night I dreamt I went to Manderley again. It seemed to me I stood by the iron gate leading to the drive, and for a while I could not enter, for the way was barred to me. Then, like all dreamers, I was possessed of a sudden with supernatural powers, and passed like a spirit through the barrier before me. Well, that was Franz Waxman's stunning score for the Academy Award-winning Best Picture of 1940, Rebecca, directed by, of course, Alfred Hitchcock. And who can forget Joan Fontaine as the second and nameless Mrs. De Winter, and Judith Anderson, who was scary as Mrs. Danvers.
88 to 91 FM. BBC Radio 2.
Hi, you're listening to me, Carly Simon. I always wanted to be the singing voice in a movie ever since I was a little girl. I thought, well, it's louder and it's important and people will listen. It's a combination of the two elements that I really loved. You know what? Writing music for film was a dream come true for me.
We're coming to the edge, running on the water, coming to the ford, your sons and daughters.
That was from Mike Nichols' film Working Girl. Actually, when I wrote that song, I was thinking about Walt Whitman and New York City. The writer Jim Hart kept me focused on what I wanted to say. I knew right away I wanted it to be a hymn over a jungle beat. There's something about New York, if you've ever been there, that's especially like a jungle. And what I was trying to do was elicit a feeling of being driven by that power, that kind of native and imperative power. Well, it turned out that I won the Oscar for Let the River Run, along with the Golden Globe and several other important things that you'll never know. And I keep them all at the bottom of my clothes closet. But you know what? I almost didn't win that Oscar because at the last minute of the editing, I got a call from the producer of the movie saying, you know, that song that you wrote, we tried Witchy Woman, the Eagles' Witchy Woman, over the beginning of the movie, and it really kind of works. And I called up Mike Nichols, and who was a friend, and I said, you know, what? Are you crazy, Witchy Woman? It's a great song, but Let the River Run, you know, it just tells it like it is, and it's got that incredibly poignant shot of the World Trade Center with the ferry going toward it. And, of course, we didn't know how poignant it would turn out to be. But Let the River Run takes on, I think, a new dimension as a result of it. But let's stay on the theme of rivers for my next selection. Well, that's a classic Henry Mancini's beautiful theme for Breakfast at Tiffany's, recorded in 1961. That was Moon River, as if you didn't know. And that's a selection that I chose to sing at my daughter's wedding. I've loved that piece of music for a long time. It's so evocative of Audrey Hepburn and the way she was sitting on the fire escape, if you saw the movie, and her longing and her themes in that movie of wanting to, you know, go somewhere and fall in love, and she was the perfect New York girl at that point. I'm Carly Simon here on Easter Day with a selection of my favorite show tunes and movie music.
This is a man who thinks with his heart,
The song Something Wonderful is the song that makes me cry every time I hear it, because men are like that. They have 1,000 dreams that won't come true. You know that they believe in them, and that's enough for you. And it's heart-wrenching. It's just touching, and it makes you forgive men every time they make a mistake, and then, of course, you're screwed again. But anyway, that was from the original Broadway cast recording of The King and I, starring Gertrude Lawrence as Mrs. Anna and Yul Brynner as the King. That was Dorothy Sarnoff as Tup Tim and Something Wonderful. Sadly, Gertrude Lawrence gave her final performance as the governess just 3 weeks before she died. But that wonderful musical by Rodgers and Hammerstein did make a star out of Yul Brynner. The King and I opened in 1951 on Broadway, and 5 years later it became a huge success on the big screen, once again with Yul Brynner, in a fabulous 20th Century Fox production. But I guess the studio name that's synonymous with Hollywood musicals has to be Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. Written by Arthur Schwartz and Howard Dietz, Dancing in the Dark, performed by the MGM Studio Chorus from 1953's The Bandwagon, starring Fred Astaire and Sid Charisse. And I remember well that she was wearing toe shoes, and her legs were so long that when she would do a kick-up, she was vastly taller than even Fred Astaire, who's tall. Anyway, it was directed by Vincent Minnelli. What a lineup! And produced by the legendary Arthur Freed, who in the 1950s made MGM his home. My goodness, well, that makes it one of the movies that we love to see so much when it's on television, and the score I listen to over and over again.